Well, welcome everyone. My name is Wendy Sachs and I'm a member of the board of Plant Powered Metro New York. And welcome to our session. We're happy to resume after a brief summer hiatus with Chef Carole today. Please note we're recording this session, so please mute yourselves. Plant Powered Metro New York is a community-based organization committed to our collective health empowerment through whole food, plant-based nutrition, which is an evidence-based approach to nutrition and lifestyle that can prevent, treat, and even reverse chronic illness. We've been offering a wide range of online programs since March, and we look forward to, and even though we look forward to meeting all of you in person, because it's our preferred way of building community as we're all in these COVID times, we've actually been thrilled to take a lot of the programs online, and we're recording these sessions, so if you miss any, you can go back into the archives and find a whole library of useful resources on our website and also on YouTube, on the YouTube channel. So as I mentioned, our guest today is the beloved Chef Carole. As usual, we're going to have Carole demonstrate for about 45 minutes, and then we'll answer all the questions in the last 15 minutes. Please put your questions in the chat, and I'll get to them if I can, but we also have time at the end to ask Carole directly. And if you'd like, please introduce yourself in the chat and let us know where you're from. We're streaming live on Facebook, so welcome to the Facebook participants. And just a reminder again to please mute yourselves. So, Carole, what's on the menu today?
Welcome. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Lynn. And welcome to my kitchen here in Manhattan. I am excited to be back. We're starting the fall. We're here at late summer, and the vegetables are very exciting at the moment at the farmer's market, and we have a variety of things. Today we're going to make two things, and I want to remind you that everything that we're cooking today is based on whole food, plant-based, and it's SOS free. It's salt, oil, and sugar free. So let's move on and we'll get things started. The very first thing we're going to make is the chickpea spinach stew, and it's a very easy, fast way to get beans into your diet. So I am going to start here with a saute pan. And some people call it a saucepan, but it's a saute pan. And the very first thing I always do with the pan is get it hot. Okay, so we're gonna just keep talking while that pan is getting hot. And I have it on a medium high heat, okay? And we are gonna go over our ingredients. And some of them I've prepped just for time. And we have 3/4 cup of chopped small diced onion, and we're going to have garlic, and then we have just a few other things. We have chickpeas, which I've cooked here this morning from the dried bean. If you didn't have the chickpeas that you cooked on your own, you could easily substitute canned no salt beans, which I like. There's an Eden brand that I like very much that are delicious. And but it's very easy just to cook your own beans. I soak them overnight. Sometimes I forget to soak them overnight, and I literally put them on in the morning, and I get the water boiling, and then they just take up maybe an hour to hour and a half. If you had an Instant Pot, you could cook your beans in that and maybe much faster. But I always have some kind of beans cooking or some kind of beans in my refrigerator to make it easy to bring that food into the diet, which is high fiber and lots of good protein for us. So again, we're getting our pot hot, and we are going to, our main part of this dish is smoked Spanish paprika, and it's very delicious, and that's going to be the main spice in this. It's a predominant spice, actually. And then we're putting in a little bit of lemon, and then we're putting in a ton of spinach. And I have a big bowl here of washed spinach, which most of you, I hope, know when you get the spinach, unless you're buying it in those pre-packaged bags. The spinach is often a very dirty vegetable, and you want to wash it almost 3 to 4 times, rinsing, rinsing it. I put it in a bowl, I move it around, I get rid of the dirty water, and you want to rinse it almost 3 times. So, and sometimes 4, but this is a ton of spinach. We only need like 5 cups, but I've got a big bowl of spinach here. And then we have our chickpeas. So how do we know when our pot is hot? I usually come over to the sink and I get a little water and I just sprinkle a little bit of water and I listen. Remember, cooking is always with all your senses. You're not just looking and smelling, but you're also listening. And that pan is hot because it's sizzled and the little dots just danced across the pan. Okay? We are going to water or broth saute these onions. And you might say, oh, wow, I usually just put the oil in and then I saute. But this is actually a healthier way of cooking without the oil. And you can actually get the onions to caramelize, and you can also get them to look and act just like you're cooking in oil, but you're doing it with water or broth, either one. Now today I'm going to use the chickpea water as my broth, and I'm just going to get a ladle, and I'm just going to put a very little bit of this broth in the pan, okay? And we're not going to get carried away with the amount of broth, okay? Just putting a little bit in, okay? And the reason we're putting a little bit is because it's slowly cooking, it's steaming, and it's going to start to make those onions translucent, okay? And if you put too much water, yes, it will cook away, but you're trying not to drown the onions, okay? And you're going to just cook them just as you would if you were cooking in oil, okay? It's amazing how this actually works perfectly. We are going to eventually add our garlic, and I want to tell you that I'm just going to show you these cloves of garlic. These are pretty normal sized cloves of garlic, and I've cut up 2, I've minced 2 very small cloves of garlic. Sometimes you might need 3 cloves of garlic. It's really hard to tell you exactly how many cloves of garlic because sometimes they're gigantic and sometimes they're very teeny. So you just kind of have to balance it out. And something if I say all the time and remind all of you is my recipes as well as other recipes that you read, it's very important that you understand that they are a guide, okay? They are not the Bible, as I like to say. They are really a guide. So this is a time when you can experiment, and there's lots of leeway. And I just want to show you, in case some of you don't know, is if you have this garlic, you just quickly hit it, okay, with the knife. You're very careful, and you take its paper skin out. And I'm just, and then what I do is just slice it very small, okay, and very thin. I try to get it small as possible right away, and then you give it a chop, 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 okay? I just wanted to show you that in case somebody, there are little tools where you can just put a piece of garlic clove in, and it comes out totally minced. That works well for people that don't like to just are in a hurry. For some reason, I've never liked one of those because I hate cleaning it. I'm just lazy about it, and it's a tool that I personally have never found useful because within seconds, you actually have chopped garlic, okay? So that's that. I just wanted to be able to show you that. Let's keep listening, and I can hear that the water has evaporated out of this pan, and we need to have just a little bit more, and these onions are already becoming translucent. They smell delicious. And this is, at this point, this is when I'm going to add the garlic, okay? So I'm putting the 2 cloves of garlic into this pan right now with the onions. And I'm actually going to add this garlic because it's okay. It's just going to give it a little more flavor. It's not spicy, and it's not going to hurt anything to have a little bit of extra garlic, okay? So we are getting that, and I want to just show you, I'm going to bring the pan close up and show you what these onions are looking like, and the garlic, okay? And we're just cooking that. Nothing is sticking here in this pan. Okay, nothing. Okay, we're gonna let that cook for a very few seconds there, and I'm gonna continue to add just a little more broth, and this broth is the chickpea broth. Okay. I have a question here. When I make the beans, I just use when I have dry beans, I just use water. So I soak the beans in water overnight, and then usually in the morning I pour that water off, and then I put clean water back into the pot, and then I cook them. And I never throw away this bean water because it's sweet and very, very delicious. So it's something, and then if you're at all a baker and you're making aquafaba, this is the water that actually whips up in like meringue. So this water, when you're cooking chickpeas, is valuable in many, many ways. So it's a shame to throw it out. And it's a shame to throw it out even when you have it in the can. So right now we're sizzling here. And what I'm gonna do next is, my recipe fell to the floor, so I have to get that. And we are going to start putting in our tomato paste and our Spanish paprika, okay? And this smells fantastic. It has a very strong smell because it's smoked. And I'm gonna get a teaspoon here, and I just have to find one right here. And I know that it says 1 to 2 teaspoons, and if you're afraid of it being so strong, maybe you just do 1. But I've made this dish a number of times, and I know that it needs 2, okay? And we are going to, put a tablespoon of tomato paste in here as well. But let's just get this stirred because I like getting the spice integrated with the onions, okay? I like getting that cooked. Now, a lot of you might say, what kind of pan am I going to cook this in? Honestly, you can cook it in any kind of pan that you have. If you have a Dutch oven, you could make this easily in your soup pot Dutch oven. If you have a Scan pan, or you have this particular pan I love a lot, it's by DeBuyer. It's D-E-B-U-Y-E-R, and it's called a carbon steel pan, and it's much like a cast iron pan. And I like it because it heats up fast, and it's it's seasoned, and it's a pan that I use for nearly everything. So that is called a DeBuyer saute pan. Okay, but again, you could make it in your Scan pan, you could make it in the Dutch oven. It doesn't matter. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add the 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, and I'm just going to kind of rough this out here, and I'm taking it out of this jar. And I like to show you brands that I like because people ask me all the time what kinds of things I like, and this is a tomato paste. I hope that you can see it, and I'll tell you in a second. It is actually 100% organic tomato paste with no salt added, and the brand is called Bio Nature. Okay, they make very good tomato products that are organic and have no salt in them. They make a tomato sauce. They make whole tomatoes. They have a whole line. So let me just show you that one more time so you can kind of see. You can buy it at Whole Foods, or most grocery stores actually have it. So we've done everything here. I just want to get this mixed and keep watching what I'm doing because I'm talking to you and I can see that I'm actually getting things are sticking to the pan. So when things are sticking, you just say, okay, I'm going to go get more broth. And then everything releases itself. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to get these peas out of this here. And let me just get a bowl really quickly in my cabinet. And we're going to strain these. And we're going to use a lot of this liquid. Oh, and sometimes when I'm cooking, I put actually onions and carrots. But let's just get rid of most of this broth by straining. Whoops, I just made a mess. Okay. This is 1 cup of beans, 1 cup of dried beans, and it's equal to 3 cups So I've got 3 cups going in there. And as you can, I want to just show you that in my strainer here, I have a little bit of onions and carrots, which are not necessary, but I use that to flavor the broth. But it's not necessary, it's just something that I like doing. So let's get this cooking. And then we need to add at least 1 cup of liquid to this beautiful, but I like getting all the chickpeas coated with the spice and the onions. And sometimes I lose the chickpeas out of their pot. Not a good thing. But I'm going to take this very heavy to show you, but I'm just going to bring it a little closer so that you can see. Okay, and I'm just stirring and getting all those onions integrated and all this spice integrated. And we're basically going to cook this now for a little bit, but we need to get that 1 cup measure. Now I actually have a ladle here, and rather than dirty a measuring cup, I have ladles that are actually measuring cups of their sorts. This is 2 ounces, which is 1/4. So I'm going to come over here, and we need 4 of these. So we're going to have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now I keep this off to the side because I've told you that we need 1 cup, but it's possible as this starts to cook and we want it to have a little more, as it reduces and cooks, it might need a little more, okay? And this is now pretty much done for now, and it's going to cook. And I'm going to actually, for our own sakes, I'm going to move it to the further back burner as we speak, right this very second. I'm going to move this to the back burner so that we can let it cook, and we'll come back to that, okay? Because we've got 2 things going on here. So that, oh, and the other thing that is always very important is I see this lemon that's sitting here on my counter. I like, when I'm got everything in, I always go back to my recipe and say, have I put everything in? So I reread. And we did the onions, we did the cloves of garlic, we did the paprika, the paste, the chickpeas. We haven't dealt with the spinach yet because the spinach is the very last thing. And then we do 2 tablespoons of juice plus zest from the whole lemon. Now that's also, the lemon is going to come at the end. So we're just going to take this lemon off and put it with the spinach, so we know. We're going to leave our measuring cup here with us, and we're going to get rid of all the spices, and we're going to begin our corn fritters. Fritters are often like kind of cakes. These are maybe more like the cakes, because when I think of a fritter, I think of something that's a batter that's going into some deep fryer, and then it's going to expand and it's going to become this delicious thing, you know, where you're going to cook it in a 1/2 inch of oil, and you're eating the cake that has been fried. But today we're going to make it so that they're not fried. We're going to either bake these fritters, or you can cook them on a griddle on top of the stove. Okay, so let's get these things out of the way for now. This is cooking. And I make sure that that's all good, and we have the measuring spoon there, and that's good. I'm just going to wash my knife. And the first thing that's most important is the corn. Okay? Now this recipe is something that I love very much because it deals with all the freshness of the end of the summer. And I have been buying so many corn on the cobs. It seems like nearly every day I'm eating corn on the cob. And I've got a lot of corn that has already been shucked and off the cob. But I want to show you how to do that. So you can see that I have a lot of corn in this bowl already. And we are only going to need 1 cup of fresh corn, and I have plenty of corn in here, but I just want to show you. And also what I have in this bowl is another bowl. I have a smaller bowl that is upside down, and I will show it to you. I'll take it out and hopefully not make a big mess. But I have another bowl that I carefully put inside, and that is going to be my little stand, okay? And this is a way for you to shuck your corn so that it doesn't go flying all over the counter. It's almost impossible to cut corn without it going everywhere. And I have taken the husks and gotten rid of as many of these strings as possible. And then I rinse them off, okay? And then you want to feel like this is the bottom. Now, often when I'm not doing this in a demonstration, I don't bother doing it like this. I just do it on my counter and I let it go all over the place. But because I want to show you the method, we're going to do it this way because it's a clean method. So what we do is we take our very sharp knife, and you have to be very careful here, okay? And feel where you feel steady here, okay? And you're going to just run your knife, and you're going to hold tight, and you're just going to run your knife all the way down. And I try not to let my knife just hit the bottom of that stainless steel bowl, okay? Because you don't really want that. So, and you just slowly turn and rotate and take the corn. Oh, there, you see how it likes to fly no matter what. It just does that. And take that, and I slowly turn it. Try to get as close to the cob as possible. And if you release some of that milk in the cob, that's just fine. And then you've got your peeled cob, okay? Just wanted you to see that. Again, if I were to do it on my cutting board, I would do the same thing, okay? But I'm not going to. I like to show you it in the bowl only because it is such a clean way. And I often, when I buy the corn at this time of year, because you're getting them so inexpensive, they're sometimes for several dollars, I actually come home and I clean it all off. And then what I'm not using, I just put in a container and I put it in the freezer. And then it's my own frozen corn, you know, and I like it. And we have made in this class, at some point, I don't remember when, but we did make soup. We make corn chowder, one of my very favorite things. And if I were to be making soup, I would actually save this for the stock. And I would put that in a big pot with a bunch of vegetables and trimmings, and I would use this extra corn flavor. But for now, I'm not making any soup, and we're just out to peel the corn. Okay, so that corn is now peeled, and I'm going to just give the chickpeas a stir, and they're cooking, and eventually they're kind of getting colored, and it's looking very good. Looking very, very good. And I want the heat to be just a little bit higher. Okay, so we are moving on. The next thing that we do for our fritters is we're going to make a flax egg. And a flax egg is a replacement for a whole egg. And the recipe for a flax egg is standard, and it's 1 tablespoon of ground flax meal and 3 tablespoons of water. So we're going to get our tablespoon. And I have one here which is dirty, but I'm going to just rinse it. I usually have 2, and I don't know where the other one is. I like having 2 sets of measuring spoons, so I'm not constantly washing, actually. So I want to show you how I store my flax seed. I buy the flax seed whole, but you don't want to ever eat the flax seed whole because it's not good for your digestion. And so what I do is I grind a little bit of it at a time in a coffee mill. You could also grind it up in a blender, Vitamix, Cuisinart. You just want to grind it. But I don't grind a ton of it because as it hits the air, the oxidization actually loses its nutrients. So I just make a little teeny bag here that I have that sits in my jar with the whole golden flaxseed, and this is my ground. Okay, so, and then I come and I get a measuring cup. First I'm going to get 3 spoonfuls of water while I'm at the sink. One, 2, 3. Okay, so we need 3 teaspoons. And I did that a little backwards. I usually put the dry first, so I don't have to dry the spoon. I usually do that. put the flax first and then get the water and wet your spoon. And then I'm going to get a nice spoonful of the flaxseed, and that's just going to sit here like this. And we'll give it a little stir. But while we're moving on and doing other things, that's going to start to thicken and gel up, okay? And our chickpeas are cooking like crazy, okay? The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to get a clean bowl, and we're going to start mixing our, getting our ingredients set. So we are going to start with yellow cornmeal, and we're going to start with corn flour. And I know people are going to ask me, what is the difference? This is actually both the same thing. Are they interchangeable? Not really, because the cornmeal is a medium to a rough ground of the corn, and the corn flour is very, 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 very fine. Now, many of you might not have any corn flour in your cabinets, and you don't want to run out and buy corn flour just to make this. You can substitute if you want. You could put any kind of flour. If you want to put whole wheat flour, that's fine. You want to put all-purpose flour, fine. You want to put spelt flour, fine. The reason that I make this recipe with the corn flour is so that when you're biting into that corn fritter, it is more corn than just the corn that you're eating. And I like it, it's just like giving it, it's like a trifecta. You have the real corn, you have the corn flour, and then you have the yellow cornmeal. So the recipe calls for a half a cup of corn flour. Okay, so we're going to do that, and I'm going to get a half a cup here. And while we're talking, I have to keep stirring these chickpeas, and I have to keep them in the pot. They seem to want to jump out, but it is cooking. And ultimately, this cooks for a little while. I'm also going to preheat our oven, because we're going to bake a few of these, and we're also going to, I'm going to show you how to cook them on the griddle. So let me get this oven on, and I'm preheating it to a hot oven, 400. Okay, and we're going to get this flour out, and we're going to get this out with a spoon. It's a little easier. Okay, and that's a half a cup. Okay, so we want a half a cup of that, the flour, that we are done with. Okay, and then we're going to get a quarter cup of cornmeal. If that is right, I want to make sure, because I tend to memorize things and I like to look. And we're going to get a quarter cup. And a quarter cup actually fits right into this jar. So that's good. And then we're just going to put these away. I don't mind putting them away. There's a whole cabinet here of flours, and they'll go right into and get them out of there. Okay, so into this now we're going to start putting all our dry ingredients, and we're going to read through the recipe, and we need a half a teaspoon, and a half a teaspoon is right here, and we need a half a teaspoon of garlic powder. Okay, so I'm going to put that. That's the dry ingredient. We're just going to put that right into the bowl. Okay, and we're going to put a half a teaspoon of baking powder, and I try to buy the aluminum-free baking powder. Okay, so we need a half a teaspoon of that, and I like to give it a few turns of fresh black pepper. Okay, so this is giving it just a few turns. Now, if for some reason you want to make these spicy, you could, when we're doing our wet ingredients, you could add a little hot sauce if you wanted. If you wanted to change the flavor a little bit and add some fresh basil, that would be delicious with the zucchini and the fritters. But this is, we're kind of keeping them flavorful and simple, because we're going to serve them with the beans, okay? And so this is pretty much this mixture, and I'm just going to get a whisk here, and we're just going to mix this together, and this basically is the dry ingredients, okay? You can see the dry ingredients, and from here, we're going to start to pile on. We're going to pile on all the things that we need, okay? And I'm going to move that, and I decided not to prep all these things in front, ahead of you, and I'm going to cut the things that we need. So we need about a 1/4 cup of scallions. Now, if you didn't have scallions, honestly, the other day I made these and I didn't have any scallions whatsoever. So what did I do? I actually used the shallot. You just want 1/4 cup of onions, roughly. And it doesn't have to be exact, okay? Again, if I had something so I'm just gonna chop these and we're gonna have 1/4 cup. And we're gonna make 1/4 cup of red peppers shortly after this. And again, you can chop. I actually use, if we were eating salad, I would actually use this whole thing. If for some reason you don't use the whole stem, you save that for your stock when you're making stock during the week. I don't know how many people actually, when you're eating a whole food plant-based lifestyle here, you end up having a lot of vegetable trimmings. And I tend to make stock quite often. Not all the vegetables go into stock, but so you'll say, is this 1/4 cup? Well, we're gonna measure it, but it's basically 1/4 cup. It might even be a little more, but let's just get it measured and we'll see how I've done here. Again, if I were doing this, I don't normally measure it out, but it looks like it's pretty accurate here. So that is your onions, okay? And I will show you the whole bowl as when we're done. And then I bought just recently these very beautiful red peppers. These are in season right now. They're sweet red peppers. They're just a little different than the normal ones that we see that are more squatty. And these are washed. And I'm just gonna trim this off so that you see how we're doing the pepper, okay? Just gonna throw that there. And I'm just gonna cut this in half, okay? And then I'm gonna cut this in half again and cut it in half again. So I end up with 4 quarters, okay? You can see that, right? 4 quarters. And then I'm going to get out the seeds and I'm gonna take out the membrane and get rid of those seeds and get rid of this part that we don't really need. So this part that is the insides, okay? I'm just showing you that so you see exactly what I'm getting rid of, okay? I'm getting rid of and we're gonna need 1/4 cup of this too. If it's a little more than 1/4 cup, it's really okay. And we are doing just fine on our time. And I'm just going to, now what I'm gonna do is cut these quarters and we want small dice. So I'm basically making each strip, and I'll show you what I've done. I make each strip so that they're thin, okay? And we'll have one more here to do that with, okay? And then I'm gonna take them and we're gonna line them up. And I think most of you, we've gone over a lot of cooking and how to cut, but you wanna hold your hands like a claw, and this is gonna guide you, and you don't wanna have your hands flat, and you just wanna start cutting, okay? And you're just gonna make small dice, okay? Just small dice, that's what you're gonna do. And these are just small dice, and we need just to make 1/4, okay? I think we need at least a couple more here. We probably don't need the whole thing, but I like to use the whole thing. If it's not 1/4, it's okay. And the chickpeas are cooking so fast, I have to look at them because they're starting to dry out a little bit, and I'm gonna show them to you so you know what I'm talking about. Let me just show them to you. You see the peas are like this, and if you can see, they're really, all the liquid is starting to go out. The chickpeas are absorbing all the liquid, which is what we want it to do, but we also don't want it to be dry, okay? So I'm gonna add, while it's cooking crazily, I'm just gonna add a little more broth to this pan, okay? That's why I said it's better to have more broth than you actually need. And I'm just gonna make sure that they're covered, give it a little pat, and again, a little more broth. More is, you can't overdo the broth, because if you end up swimming the chickpeas, you're just gonna cook it longer and it's eventually gonna cook down and it's gonna reduce. So if for some reason you end up getting heavy-handed there. You can absolutely, you'll be fine. Okay, back to this. I'm just going to finish cutting this pepper, and then we're going to move on to the zucchini, and then we're almost ready to make our fritters. And we are in, and this, again, I'm not sure if this is a quarter. We have our same measuring cup here, and we are going to just put this in. It looks like I have a little more than a quarter, but I'm certainly going to use it all, okay? There's no way that I'm not putting it in there. Okay, so let's get rid of that. And we're going to just put this into here, okay? And the other thing that we need now is the zucchini. I like to shop at the market, and I have these very beautiful zucchinis here that are yellow and green. I actually, if you can get just the dark green zucchinis, it's good because it adds a different color to the fritters. So you don't need these fancy looking two-tone zucchinis. Actually, a real dark green one is just, it's better actually. So these are washed, and I'm just going to cut off the end. And what we want to do is we want to grate it on our large grater. Okay, and we have a grater, and the holes that I'm going to use are the large holes. Okay, and we need a half a cup of zucchini. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly do a half a cup. Again, I thought that this time, often I prep things way ahead so that we can just move through things, but I thought this is very simple, very fast, and wanted to be able to show you. Now this zucchini probably would make almost a cup, so I'm going to stop here with this little end, and we're just going to see where we're at, okay? That is probably a half a cup right there, but let's just check. And we're going to put it in there and pack it in there, okay? Pack it in like that, okay? You see how full that is? Could I finish this? Would it be like a bad thing to put a little more in? Honestly not, because for me, unless I was making something like spaghetti sauce, or when am I going to use this? Maybe in a salad, maybe a green salad. I might as well, because I'm so close to being at the end here, I might as well use it up rather than put it in the fridge as a tiny little end and then lose it in my refrigerator. Then it goes moldy, and then I'm upset with myself that I have wasted food. So this is now going to be a fully packed, lots of zucchini, not a problem, okay? And then what I like to do is there's a lot of water in zucchini, and you can do this one of two ways. You can actually put it in a paper towel, which I can show you. I don't usually do it this way, but I think it's a good way to show you. I actually just put it in my own hands and squeeze it over the sink, but let me just show you. You could take a real kitchen towel, but you want to just squeeze out the water. And if you were making zucchini bread, you would do the same thing because you don't want all this extra moisture. Okay, so you're just going to squeeze and squeeze. And again, you can see why you don't really need the paper towel, because you could do this in your hands, okay? And then I'm going to just put this zucchini right into the bowl, okay? And again, here is the liquid. And you just don't need that extra liquid in your fritter, which I sometimes call cakes, okay? And I want to just clean this board because it's better that I clean it now because I like having it clean. And we're going to get out the almond milk, and we are pretty much done with the batter. And we are going to, let's make sure. So we have here our flaxseed egg, and it's very, very thick. If I could show it to you, let's see if I can successfully show it to you. It's like this, and it looks like that. It's very glutinous, okay? Very glutinous. And it's going to just go into there, okay? And then we're going to get our almond milk, which I have here in the fridge. I'm going to give it a little shake. You don't have to use almond milk. You could use any plant-based milk. You could use soy. You could use oat if you want, but just a plant-based milk. And in the recipe, I suggest that half a cup plus 3 tablespoons. But I don't deal with the 3 tablespoons until I get the half a cup in there. Okay, so let's get this measured, and let's just get a half a cup measured right into where the flaxseed is just fine. Okay, and I'm going to pour that in, and I'm going to get this whisk out of here because it's much nicer, much nicer to get a spatula. Okay, and we're going to get this mixed, okay, and I'm just showing you that I'm mixing this, and I can feel already that it does need a little more liquid, but I like getting it all mixed first. Okay, we have the oven on. Remember, I've preheated the oven. See an onion over here. Okay, and this is a little dry right now, and I can see that it looks very pasty. Do you see how it's pasty? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the measuring spoon, which is right here when we measure, and I'm going to put the first, it says an extra 3 tablespoons. I'm going to put 2 because I actually think 2 is enough. Again, it just depends on how heavy-handed you are when you've measured your flour and you're just looking for a batter that is not too wet, also, but not too dry either, okay? And you can almost hear that it's perfect. Now, I think I could actually get away with 1 more spoonful of milk, actually. So I'm going to just give it an extra little spoonful of milk. And that is our recipe. And I'm going to make sure that we haven't missed anything and get that milk back in there. And we are going to read, we did the flour, the cornmeal, the powder, the garlic powder, the baking powder, the black pepper, the corn, the zucchini, and we did our peppers and scallion and flaxseed oil, and we did our milk. Okay, so this is right now our batter. Okay, and at this point, I'm going to show you 2 very quick ways because we're going to have to wrap up soon. And I just want to show you 2 quick ways to cook this batter. And it really is up to you. Because the first time I made this batter just a few weeks ago, it was really hot, and I didn't want to have the oven on at all. So I just I cooked them on the stove actually because I just couldn't bear to have the apartment heat up. But today it's not so bad. So that is the batter, and I just want you to see that, okay? And what have we forgotten? A cup of corn. You see how one can forget things? And we just read through the entire recipe, and I have this corn sitting here. It's so beautiful that I'm almost forgetting about it. And how could we have corn fritters without the corn? So here's our cup of corn. That's going in there. All this extra corn can be made for soup tomorrow, can go into the freezer, and we're going to get this mixed up. And can you believe, you see, I'm not perfect either. None of us are perfect. And you know what? You kind of ad-lib when you're in the kitchen. You have to get it so that you don't say, oh, I forgot that darn corn. You just say, well, you know what? I've got it and I remembered it. And it's all good. And at this point, sometimes I actually give it a little taste to see how it is. Because we're not using any salt. The only thing that's really strongly flavoring it is the black pepper. You could put, I'll do this just to show you. If you want, you could put just a teeny bit. If you wanted it to have it spicy, you could put just a hair, 1, 2, 3. I'm doing this for my friends that will probably end up eating these and like spice. So I'm just putting in a teeny bit of hot spice. And just let's taste that now. And again, it is so yummy. Put that back, and we are going to get these in the oven, and we're going to also get them on the griddle. Let's put this over here. We are looking at the chickpeas. I'm going to move them forward a little bit, and they are looking fantastic. Whoops, I just lost a whole chickpea. Anyway, if you can see how the chickpeas now are fully orange, and it's really absorbed all that nice juice and the spice, and those are going to be delicious. And honestly, you're going to be able to eat this chickpeas a handful of ways. I mean, right now these would be just delicious over a sweet potato or a baked Idaho potato. But we're gonna add our spinach because I always like having greens and beans. It's kind of my thing. And I also like to have it a little more liquid. So again, I'm just gonna put a little more. It's gonna cook. We are gonna get the sheet pan here. And I'm gonna show you. I happen to have a piece of parchment because I made some things earlier. But let me show you. I use this parchment baking paper. I think a lot of you have seen me talk about the paper. And why do you use the paper? It's for easy cleanup. It means that nothing's going to stick to your sheet pan. And if you had a Silpat baking mat, then that's great too. I just have used the paper for a long time, and I tend to reuse the sheets of paper many times. If it's clean and not too wet and not too dirty, I actually fold it up, put it in the refrigerator, and use it for another time. So I do get my mileage out of using the paper. And we are going to make measurings, and we're only going to make a few in the oven. Because I want to very much show you how I do this. So I am going to use the 1/4 cup measure, and we're just going to pack the 1/4 cup measure. I like to pack it so that it's packed, and then I literally upside down it, and we do this, okay? Now, at the same time while I'm showing you this, I actually want to get on the pan while we're talking, because I'm going to do a few on the griddle so that you can see them. And I don't like wasting any time. When must we turn our oven on? This is going to get hot while we're learning how to do this. Okay, so I'm just going to show you 4 of them over here. Okay, and those ones are going to go in the oven. Okay, so this is going to go, I pat them at the bottom. I just pat them out into little cakes. Try to keep them so that they're together, not falling apart. They are going to cook, and they are going to brown. It's going to be amazing. You're going to wonder, like, how could that happen? She doesn't even oil the pan or anything. How could that happen? But it does. And those are just going to go in the oven. Okay, and they go in, and I try to make them so they're about, a 1/2 inch thick. Okay, and that's what these look like. Okay, and what happens is when they go in the oven, you're going to cook them for about 15 minutes or so, and then you're going to flip them, and then you're going to, after you flip them, then you're going to cook them for another 15 minutes. What you're looking for is you're looking for them to be brown on both sides, and I'm reminding you that ages ago we preheated our oven to 400 degrees. Okay, so 400 degrees, I started that before we even started, just like I started the griddle here for getting them all baked. I'm going to put these in the oven. I'm just going to rinse my fingers here because they're a little damp. And we're going to get these in the oven. Okay, those are there. Now, what kind of pan am I using to cook these? This is I call it my pancake pan, and it's a big Teflon, it's one of my oldest pan, and I'll just show it to you here. It's just a big pan that's like this, very flat. You wouldn't put a lot of, it's perfect for pancakes. And it's an old pan as far as I'm concerned. And I do worry about sometimes not cooking any oil or anything. So what I'm going to tell you to do, and you might be surprised, but I like to give it a little bit of seasoning, okay? And you can do this even though we're not eating any oil and we're not cooking in any oil. I'm going to suggest to you that you use a little bit of oil, whether it's a coconut oil or an olive oil. And what you're going to do is you're going to season your pan. You could even use a flaxseed oil. And you would use very, very, very little. And you would get this in, and then you would get a paper towel. And then basically what you're doing is you're seasoning your pan, and you're going to get all of the oil out of the pan. Okay, so you're rubbing this in, okay? And then you're basically, it's going to be cleaned out. And I actually fold the paper towel so the oil's not there anymore. And then and this is how I make pancakes as well. And this pan that we're cooking the chickpeas in gets seasoned all the time. Every time I wash it, it actually gets covered in flaxseed oil and then gets dried out. Just like a cast iron pan, a pan that you have to take care of, and the reason is seasoning. So I've just basically seasoned this pan, but it has no traces of oil in the pan. And it's hot right at this very second. I can feel it. If we were to test its hotness, if we were to test it, it's spattering. I'm listening, it's spattering. Okay, and we're gonna go back to our batter here. Okay, and we're just gonna take our 1/4 cup measure again, and we're just going to get this patted out. And we're going to get those cooking. And then we're gonna go back and we're gonna finish very quickly the chickpeas, and then we're gonna plate everything up. And I probably could take a few questions while I'm doing this, if anyone had questions this very minute.
There are a number of questions, Carole, so you can answer them short or long. I'm going to kind of go in reverse order, and some of these I may have already answered in the chat, but did you boil the corn first before you cut the kernels? Okay.
Did not. In fact, people have a diatribe of how they cook corn. I mean, if you were to ask 10 people how they cook corn, someone would say, oh, we boil it for 9 minutes. In the restaurant, when we used to cook corn, and whether it was corn on the cob, we just cooked it till it was hot. The whole reason for putting it in the pan, the boiling water, was just to make it hot. Honestly, I would eat this corn just as it is without even cooking it. It's fine. So that answers that. But I did not cook it, okay? I did not.
Okay, great. How many ears of corn for 1 cup cooked?
It's kind of like asking how many cloves of garlic, or how many sometimes that 1 onion equals 1.5 cups. I would say to have 2. If I were making, I would say to get probably a cob and a half. So I would get 2 cobs of corn for your 1 cup.
Great. Excellent. Peggy,
but I want to tell you, could I just interrupt here for a minute? 3 weeks ago, I was getting very, very big corn on the cobs. So that might have yielded almost 1 cup. But today I got a bunch of cobs that were really, really, really small. Maybe that's just what's out right this very moment, because it's starting to be somewhat the end in the markets. So again, I would buy 2 and you'll be covered for the 1 cup.
Beautiful. Excellent. Peggy asked, when you're making your corn meal, and I know that you sometimes, Carole, describe the differences, can you use stone ground cornmeal? Is there a difference?
Oh, yes,
stone
absolutely.
ground?
Yes, stone ground is more delicious. If you have access to stone ground, it's just the way that it's been milled, and it's very delicious. So yes, you can, is the answer.
And regarding the chickpeas on the stove, how high is the heat that you're using for the chickpeas?
Actually, you know what? If we weren't in a 45-minute class, honestly, I would have had this on low, and I would have been cooking it for several hours and let it cook and simmer slowly. But because so right now I have it on a medium, I would say medium-high heat, but that's because we're breezing through this very quickly.
Lovely. Speaking of time,
but if I were just doing it myself, I would definitely have it on a slow, medium heat.
Got it. Speaking of time, everyone, I know it's close to 6. We have about 4 minutes, but we will likely go closer to 6:15. So if you need to hop off, all understood. And if you can stay on till Carole has it all cooked and plated, then of course, please stay on. We're
almost done. We're almost done.
We are almost done. Or do you want to keep going?
I can talk. I just want to tell everybody that I'm taking the spinach and I'm rough chopping it, okay? And if you've ever cooked spinach, you know that you need a ton, right? You need a ton because it disintegrates into nothing, okay? And if you bought 1 bunch of spinach, it probably would be enough for this recipe, okay? I bought my spinach loose, so, and I measured, I'm going to measure it just so you kind of roughly know, but I'm going to put 5 cups, okay? So I'm going to pack that. I want everyone just to see that I'm packing it in here, Okay, and I'm putting it on top. Okay, I'm putting it on top like that. And oops, here's a big leaf. 2. And it's going to be like piled up, and you're going to be like, oh my God, that is so much spinach. But I'm telling you, it cooks down to nothing. And you can never have enough spinach, full of iron. And again, you want to eat those greens and get those greens and beans into your diet. So we are now on 3, 4, and then honestly, I'm measuring so that you can see, but it's not something I would do if I were not demonstrating, because I would pile it so high that I would just get another handful here. This is what I would do, okay? And we have to watch our pancakes. We're doing 2 things at one time, okay? And I want to check the cakes and check the spinach. The spinach is going to cook. If you had a lid for the pan, you could put the lid on now and that spinach would collapse instantly, okay? Right now I don't have a lid out for the pan, and I'm just literally, I'm going to just kind of get it going in here. But what I like to do at this very, very second is take a lemon, okay, a lemon, and I like to give it a good, the full lemon, I like to give it the zest. This is a replacement for your salt, okay, because this lemon is going to bring up all the flavors. Now I really can feel the heat of these pancakes, so I'm going to stop, and I want to just look at them and flip them over. And you see they're nice and brown. I will show you in case you can't see. Just let me, I will show you that they're nice and brown. Okay. I just had to do that in the middle of while we were zesting. You see how you have to kind of, you're doing several things at one time in the kitchen. And just getting the zest. Now, this is very sharp, so you always want to be careful when you're rotating, that you're actually physically turning. And then I always tap this because it gets kind of stuck in the thing. And try to get this, all the skin off. And I think I like telling everyone this all the time, that I never really crack open a lemon, an orange, or a lime without taking off the zest. Because the zest, you can put in a container, in an airtight container in your refrigerator, and have that zest. And then we're going to need some of the lemon juice, okay, into that. And I have a juicer right here. And I'm just going to turn that around. And each half is about 2 tablespoons. Okay, so I'm just going to squeeze that into like that. And this I actually use and I drop into my glass of water for lemon, or I clean my copper pans. This and salt will clean a copper pan. So I save all the lemons. And we are going to stir this. And you can see that the spinach now has started to collapse. Okay, and I'm trying to get everything mixed in. Again, I would probably let this cook. We're going to serve it, you know, in a minute. Let me just get all of this stirred. And we are going to look at the bottom of these. Now the pancakes that are in the oven are probably not ready to flip yet. But I did want you to see that we can cook them in the oven. Okay, it's important to get all this mixed in. Okay, and we are about ready to plate everything. But there are additional questions while we're kind of in transition here.
Yes, Carole, I've got a bunch of questions. So,
Okay.
if you're not making the chickpeas, what do you serve with the corn fritters?
First of all, it's very hot. I just want to tell you, very, very hot. The corn fritters can be eaten as an appetizer. They would be delicious with jar salsa. I mean, if you just had salsa that you had in your refrigerator that's pre-made, delicious with salsa on the top. What else could you eat them with? I would eat them with a salad, just as a kind of starch, you know. So there's so many things that you can eat them with.
Great. Helen wants to know if she can come for dinner. Her mouth is watering.
She could, yes. So what we're going to do now is I like to get a little things cleaned up here. We don't need our spinach anymore. I think that maybe some of you will be curious just to see the ones that are in the oven, because you might say, God, she put them in the oven, but she's not even looking at them. So let's just get this cleaned up. Let me get a little plate here to get these out. Well, I'll make the remaining. And these are done. You see, I just want to show them to you. They're brown and brown on the outside, okay? Both sides. I'm throwing them here for a minute just to get them off. I'm going to turn this off for 1 minute. I will cook the remaining of the pancakes when we're done with the demo. I do like a clean counter. It is important to keep a very clean kitchen. And when you're making several things at one time, I very much encourage you to clean up in between. In Manhattan, you have small kitchens, so you often have to clean up in between just to get by. But the fact is that it is just good to have a clean counter, and in between dishes, you're cleaning up. It is psychological as well as practical. Okay, let's just look very quickly at the ones in the oven so that you say, Carole, she's out of her mind. She's baking things. She's not looking. How could they be browning in the oven? And how could they flip over? And I'm going to show you. See, they need a little more browning. And why do I say that? You see, they're just still pale. So I'm actually going to keep these. We can look at another one and see, but it's still very light brown. So I'm going to actually keep these in the oven for a few more minutes. Will probably be off by the time those are really done. But I have made some in advance so you see. And then we're going to get rid of this. And we're going to plate all this food. Okay, we're going to get rid of this for now. Okay, and this. And we have this beautiful. Get this off. Okay. Oh, and I wanted to make a little teeny salad. So very quickly, I have some greens. I have some arugula and some just really quickly. I like having lettuce. Okay. We have a tiny little tomato here. I'm just going to give it a little cut. We're just going to serve some tomato. Just, again, nice to have. Okay. You can put a cucumber if you want really quickly. Again, you don't have to have any of this. It's just nicer to have a little bit of combination. Okay? And then people often ask me, how do you make a really fast dressing? You know, so we don't have time to show you, but I'm going to tell you and you could just take a note. This is a dressing that has 1 teaspoon of date paste, 1 teaspoon, 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard, and 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. That's it. Okay? And I can taste it and tell you that it's very delicious. I'm going to just pour a little bit on top, just like that. Okay? Doesn't need a lot. Doesn't need a lot. We're going to put our greens and beans here onto the plate. And again, this would be delicious over a sweet potato. As we move into the fall, it would be delicious over a squash or a spaghetti squash. Right now, you could make zoodles, you know, with your zucchinis. You can make them, you can buy packaged zoodles at the store, and you could serve this over that. That would be delicious. It's a big helping, but I definitely like beans and red yolk. Now I want to show you what the baked ones look like. These are the baked ones that I baked earlier, and these are the ones that I cooked in the skillet. Okay, and then we're just going to serve, I don't know, a couple of them. We don't need a lot. Just probably 2 is plenty. And we're just going to serve that. And that is our demo for today. And I'm happy to answer any more questions, but that is our meal. And I think it looks delicious.
Absolutely beautiful. And one of the things I always love about your cooking and your serving and plating is how colorful everything is, which many of you on the plant-based journey already know that lots of color is also the most helpful. So I just love the colors in everything, the fritters and all of it. Terrific. Can you repeat the dressing? I've got 1 teaspoon date paste, 1 teaspoon Dijon mustard, 2 tablespoons lemon juice.
Yes, that's it. That's
Great.
just a fast dressing. Like you have nothing. I mean, I like to have a pre-made, since I, not having olive oil, lemon juice. I mean, you could use rice wine vinegar, and that's delicious. If you have a really good balsamic, sometimes I just pour balsamic. But I know people get hung up on saying, I need a dressing, I need a dressing. So this is a fast dressing. Doesn't have to be pre-made ahead of time. I literally just put it together in less than 2 minutes and just toss the salad.
Great.
And you could definitely put some pepper. I mean, that's probably a good idea.
So many people are hopping off and saying thank you. I know you can read the chat later. I'm just going to run through because I have about 5 or 6, 7 questions, quite a few. So I'm going to go through them quickly so we can end pretty soon. From the beginning, can you use Swiss chard instead of spinach?
Absolutely. You could use kale, Swiss chard, any kind of green. You could use mustard greens. Any kind of green would be just fine.
Great. Can you use frozen corn kernels or canned corn kernels? And do you have a preference between frozen or canned?
I always use, when corn is not fresh, I absolutely use frozen corn all the time. And I prefer it over the canned because the canned is in a can and environmentally, you don't want to buy the can, as well as you want to have, when they freeze that corn, it's immediate from the time they pick it and it goes right to the freezer. So I recommend frozen vegetables for people who don't have time to do all the prep work, to just buy bags of frozen things, frozen mushrooms, frozen spinach, frozen beans. I encourage that.
Great. With the zucchini, did you use a potato ricer to squeeze water out of the zucchini?
A potato ricer? No, I wouldn't use a potato ricer. A ricer is a different thing, and a ricer is mostly for like mashed potatoes and ricing. I would just use a grater, a hand grater.
Great. So you answered the question about the stone ground cornmeal and how many ears of corn. Can you repeat just quickly how you caramelize onion using just water instead of oil?
Yeah, well, you could use, I want to be clear that you can use water or you can use vegetable stock, okay? And if you're using the vegetable stock out of the boxes that you buy in the store, please look at what the ingredients are, because some of them are very, very salty. So try to get a brand that is low salt, okay? Read the label. And then you get your pan hot, and just like you would if you were cooking in oil, you put your onions in the pan, and then you slowly, I call it nursing, because you're gonna slowly put the water or the broth over the onions, just a little bit at a time, and they're just gonna cook. Now, if we wanted to caramelize those onions today so that they were really brown, we just had to cook them another 10 or 15 more minutes. But because my goal today was just to make them cooked and translucent so that we could move on with the stew, then that's all we need. We only needed to cook them for 5-7 minutes.
Great. Now, I know you already addressed the seasoning of the pots. About how much oil do you actually use to keep the pot?
I would say a teaspoon. I literally would say a teaspoon, or the size of when you pour it out, it's no bigger than a nickel or a quarter. Okay, very, very little. You need little bit. And then you're just rubbing it on the pan and then you're taking it out.
Great. And then final question, and then we have a few comments just to wrap up. Arlene asked, what's your favorite cookware? Brand-wise.
I do like this DeBuyer French pan, and then I really like my Mauville copper pans. They're also French.
Those, Carol, it's a little hard to hear you.
Oh, sure. It's D-E, a little D-E, and then capital B-U-Y-E-R, DeBuyer. And then the other, I'll just show you I mean, I like cooking in copper personally because it retains the heat evenly, and I love it very much. And these are the same pans, only one's copper and one's stainless steel. And this is another French pan called Mauville, and it's capital Mauviel.
Great. Okay, very good. So hopefully, Aline, you got your question answered on that. All right, everyone, that's it. I so appreciate all your comments. Carol, you're getting a ton of thank yous, and many people, I think, who want to come for dinner. Really, really beautiful. For everyone, please tune into plantpoweredmetronewyork.org. We have ongoing programs that we're adding to the calendar. Carol will be cooking again, not next Sunday, but the following Sunday at 5 o'clock Eastern.
I won't be cooking the following Sunday. Actually, I'm sorry to interrupt because there's some clarity. I just want to tell you, I don't have another class scheduled at this moment for the month of September, except for on Wednesday, 9:30, which is a master class, which I don't want to talk about it a lot at the moment because we're in the middle of forming it, but I do want everyone to know that we are in the midst of making a class where 4 to 5 people will join me for a 2-hour class, and we will all cook together at the same time. The ingredients will be sent in advance. You'll go shopping, and then we will all cook together. That is all being formulated, and that will be the end of September, and that is we're just putting that together, so I can't discuss it fully right now. The next confirmed class is October 25th. There are many Jewish holidays in the month of October and September, so there are some weekends where I'm simply just not cooking. So, but please follow me on the Instagram. I have a website called thevegievanguard.com, and you can also stay tuned to Plant Powered Metro New York, and they will update when I am back cooking and having you share the demo with me.
Right. Yep. Sorry, guys, my mistake. Best option is to just keep checking back at the Plant Powered Metro New York events page. And again, Carol's Instagram is thevegievanguard.com. No,
the Instagram doesn't need a .com, but it's okay. The Veggie Vanguard. And
I'm making a lot of mistakes, but you get the point. So one last thing, if you aren't already on our mailing list, please sign up on the website and also join our Facebook and Instagram, where we have active communities, many posting information and engaging with one another. And thank you, everyone, for coming today.